Hello everybody, and welcome again to this great event. I'm going to give you a bit of a breakdown about my journey. So I was asked to give you a summary, as it were, of how I found myself from my early years in secondary school, college, university, onto medical school, onto surgical school, and then on to where I am today. So that's almost 15 years that I have to give you in 15 minutes. So pardon me if it's a bit too fast, but I'll try and at least break it down and bring out the most important areas that I feel that all of you need to be aware of. So the first thing is, I grew up in Peckham, Southeast London, council estates. I'd never had any family that were in medicine before. My mother was a cleaner in the hospital at one point, and then eventually managed to do some extracurricular activities and become a nurse. And so that was the only kind of exposure that I had to the hospital and things like that. But one thing I've always had, even from a young age, I've always enjoyed looking after people. How people feel mattered to me. There are some people that they don't care how other people feel. If they offend somebody, they don't mind. If somebody's hurt or in pain, they don't really care. But with me, it actually bothers me a lot if I hear someone's hurt by me, or if somebody's in pain, or if someone's struggling. I've always had an empathy that I just can't get rid of, even till now. I just can't shake it off. It's just there. And sometimes I have sleepless nights and I'm thinking, oh no, this person's in pain. Oh no, this one's suffering, or so on and so forth. So I've always had that. And one of the beauties of the church that I go to, and the church that most of us attend, is that God speaks, and we have a lot of testimonies and evidences of that in our lives. And one of the things I had from a very young age is I was told, oh, this young child is going to be a doctor. And back then I thought it was just a joke, really. I just thought my parents were saying that because they just wanted to encourage me. But later on I learned, as I was getting older, that this was a prophecy that they were given. So that was really encouraging. So I got to the age of 15, 16 in Peckham at the time, and it was time for me to sit my GCSE exams. And they came to the school one day. We had a careers networking event like this in the school, and they asked us, what do you want to do in the future? And I said, oh, I don't really know, but I'm thinking about becoming a doctor. And they said, well, what are the steps? Do you know how to become a doctor? What are the steps? And I just didn't know the steps. And so the first thing that they told me that I think is very important for us all to know is that you need to understand the steps that are required to step into a certain field. If you have aspirations of becoming a pilot, or you have aspirations of becoming a businessman, or you have aspirations of becoming a barrister or a lawyer, it's very important for you to know the steps that are required for you to get there, okay? Because if you dream of the end and you have no idea of the beginning and the middle, you're going to really struggle to build. And so it's very important for you to be aware of the process and the steps that are required. So I went through a journey of going through the steps that were required. And the way I did that was by asking people and finding people who had achieved it already, and asking them, how did they achieve it? How did they get there? Now, fortunately for me, although I didn't know any doctors or anyone in the medical professional field, I asked teachers that were in my school, and they gave me email addresses of doctors that they knew, or medical students that they knew through training and so on. And so I would email them and say, I'm so-and-so, this is my name, this is my school, this is who introduced me. I just want to have an idea of how you got to where you are. And that's important. Some of us lack the courage to reach out, to seek advice, to seek expert opinion. And it's well within your reach to achieve that and to chase that. But don't allow fear to stop you from ascertaining the wisdom that is actually available to you. And that's why we're having this networking event. There's a lot of minds here, a lot of experience here, and you can tap into that. Don't be shy about it, because a lot of people are more than happy to tell you about themselves and tell you about what they're doing. So the problem is not on their end. Sometimes the problem is the fear on our end, that false experience that appears to be real. take that step. Be bold, take that step, because you have time on your side, but remember that time waits for nobody. And so if you don't take that opportunity, that time may go. So I used that opportunity. I asked different medical professionals, and they gave me steps. They said, well, you need to get your A-levels, and you have to have your A-levels to a certain standard. And once you have your A-levels to a certain standard, then you apply to medical school. And so that's what I focused on. I focused on making sure that my grades were the standard that was required. Now, all of you know how challenging that can be, but again, it's about the steps. When it comes to my A-levels or studying, it's quite a... Studying is something that I believe every one of us can excel in, but it just requires dedication and planning. That's a simple, and that's why so many people from so many different backgrounds do so well in education, because it's a leveler. If you know this is my syllabus, this is what I need to study, and this is what I need to cover, and you sit down and you spend the time and you invest the time doing that, if you discipline yourself, you will achieve it. You will achieve it. But if you look for shortcuts and you say, well, I'm going to leave that assignment to the last minute, and I'm going to leave the studying till 2 weeks before the exam, then you'll reap the reward of that. So that was my next step. Make sure my A-levels were up to par. I applied for medical school. I got good grades, thank God. And when I applied for medical school, I didn't get in. So I was stuck. I didn't have a university to go to. They rejected my application despite me having all A's at A-level and things. So then I thought, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I've hit a setback. So I had to take time out. I had to look at what I had done wrong. I had to reflect and see what was different. And one of the things I did is that I reached out again. So those schools that rejected me, I emailed their administration departments, and I asked them, what is the reason for me not having a place? Why is it that you rejected me? And funnily enough, one of the things that happened is that they all replied me individually. And they all had individual criteria for how they accept medical students to medical school. And so what they told me is that everybody that applies for medical school knows that you have to have the grades. So everybody has the grades. The grades is not enough. My mentality was, oh, the grades are enough. They said, no, the grades are not enough. This medical school requires you to have 6 months of work experience that you say in your personal statement, and then we accept you. This medical school requires you to have an extracurricular activity that you do, that you are a lead on a national level before we accept you. This medical school requires you to be involved in some kind of research activity. So then I realized, there is more that I wasn't doing that I didn't know, but if I didn't reach out, I wouldn't have known. So I took that year out to cover those bases as much as I could. I covered the bases, I applied, and I got into medical school. So that was that first step. Once I got into medical school, then it ramped up. Because as you go up the ladder, there are more and more people who are equally as bright, equally as hardworking, equally as disciplined, equally as hungry. And so you can't sit back and relax. You have to continue in the things you were doing before. You can't just say, oh, well, I've arrived and that's it. So that's another mistake that people shouldn't make. I think I made in my first year of university, as most people do. I thought, I've arrived in university, it's all good now, and I relaxed. And so when the exams came, I was struggling. And it's because I wasn't disciplined. And so in my second year of medical school, I realized, no, I have to take this very seriously. I have to plan my steps. I have to make sure I'm up to date with my assignments. I have to make sure I'm studying regularly. And then it became easy. I made that routine, it became easy. I went through medical school and that was all fine. But one thing I need to talk to you about is the fact that medicine is more than just studying. There's a practical side to medicine as well. Seeing patients, seeing people suffering, seeing lives being lost. You get a different perspective to life. You realize that life has a beginning and life has an end really quickly. You see children that are very sick. You see elderly people that are very sick. And that takes an emotional toll on you as well. And so having the community, the church community around me, helped to solidify me and keep me grounded and keep me strong and keep me encouraged, because medicine is not like banking or something where you're in an office. You see things that can make you cry every day. And so it's like we have a saying, it's a microcosm of life. It's actually, you're like a carer for everybody. You know, when you go home, people ask you, oh, I have this, I have that. And when you go to the hospital, people have this and have that. And so it's a lifetime, it's a life skill. So anyone that's interested in going into medicine as a career, just know that it's a life calling. And it's a calling of empathy. It's a calling of caring for people. And many of my colleagues who went into it because of selfish reasons or because they thought they'll be very rich, a lot of them left at some point because that was not what it was about. After medical school, I decided to take a journey into surgery. So that was another challenge. Again, I used the same things as before. I asked those surgeons that had qualified for medical school, how did you do it? What are the steps that are required? And once I was able to identify the steps, God helped me to achieve those steps and excel in that calling. And so I'm working as a surgeon now. Now I must say, the higher up I've gone in the journey, the less and less I've seen people that look like me. And so this is something I do need to stress to you. A lot of you here are, of ethnic minority persuasion, and sometimes what will happen is something we call imposter syndrome, where you feel like, I don't belong here. You feel like I'm not good enough. You feel like, they all must be better than me, because I might not speak in a certain way, I might not look a certain way, I might not culturally discuss the same things that they discuss when they're having fun, I might not blend. But the beauty about the society that we're in, and this is why I want you all to take advantage of this, to make sure you make the connections, you ask the questions, and you're bold in achieving those steps to the goal, is that we're in a society where you can achieve. If you take the steps and you do them diligently, you will achieve. There is no barrier to you, and you belong. If you have the knowledge and you have what it takes, you belong. And so don't ever feel that because you look a certain way or because your name is a certain way that you don't belong. You belong. In fact, more than anyone else, you belong. Okay? So use the opportunity now to make those connections, to talk with one another, to share contacts, be bold about it. Don't allow rejection or imposter syndrome to put you down. I'll give you this brief 15-year story in 15 minutes just to encourage you that the steps are there. Take them, and God will take you to great heights. Okay, right, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. There is a Q&A section for 5 minutes, I've been told. I think, just so if there's anyone that wants to ask me any questions specific to medicine or specific to my career or just outside of the box, I'm happy with anything. So the floor is yours. Be bold. Okay. Who would like to
my question is, you said that obviously at work you help people, you go home, you help people. So how do you manage and balance your mental health? How do you help yourself?
I don't know what that means. I've seen them 6 couple of times. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. That has been a struggle because life is very unpredictable, and sometimes you feel you're there, you're ready, or everything's fine, and then something hits you out of the blue, bam, and One thing that has kept me, for sure, and that's one of the reasons why I'm actually in this program, and I love, is my faith and my relationship with God. It has been the consistent thing throughout all of my journey, throughout all the difficulties, the ups and downs. It's been the consistent thing that has never left me, that has continued to reassure me, that has comforted me. Speaking and praying about difficulties in my quiet place has given me strength in the difficult times. And also having a community of people who have similar cares and a similar calling to myself. Because it's interesting. We sometimes remember that a stick on its own can be easily broken, but a stick that's gathered together with others is harder to break. And as one man sharpens another, it's beautiful to have a community of believers that you can hold on to in difficult times. And that's something that I think every one of us should not negate, especially now that we're gathering together as young people. It's important to have that around you because it will help you in your difficult times. And the relationship with God is just, for me, is my foundation, it's my base. It's what keeps me when everyone else is shaking and struggling. I know that my daddy's got me. So no matter how bad it is, I know he's got me. And he speaks. And that's what comforts me. So that's how I've been dealing with it personally. But a lot of my colleagues, I've seen colleagues that have committed suicide. Not once, not twice, First time was during our exam season at the end of medical school. It was very tough. And some people are just on their own and they found one of my colleagues in their bedroom. And sometimes when we meet up together, we always remember, what if Mo was still here, If only he had someone to talk to or to comfort or to console, because his life is more important than the struggle of that time. But sometimes when you're in the moment, you're overwhelmed and you don't see. But sometimes you need God to remind you, and also believers around you to remind you that this season is only for a time. And that God is more than that problem. So that's what holds me. That's what holds me. I hope that helps to a degree. I also like sports. Sports are good. I like to go out and do other things.
Mine are twofold. The first one is, you said that you learned that you received a message that you become a doctor. Yeah. Whilst you were in that journey, did you get any other messages regarding your career? Yeah. And then my second one is, I think I've forgotten.
You forgot it?
It'll come back. Yeah.
So yes, that message, I would say yes, several times. Most of the time, so I want to make it more open to everyone. But for me, one of the ways that God communicates to me is in my dreams. And so sometimes my dreams encourage me a lot. And especially when I was in medical school, one of the things I was struggling with is, okay, you wanted me to be a doctor, what type of doctor should I be? I don't even know what, there's over 100 different subspecialties. And I was asking about it, praying about it. Like I said, that's my comfort. I'm speaking to God in my quiet place. And what started to come to me, I'll give you a specific dream, is I would see myself in a blue gown, a long blue gown, and I'll be holding a knife, and I'll be cutting something. I didn't know what it was, but I'll be cutting something. I used to think, what is this? Because when I grew up in Peckham, when you're holding a knife, but things like that, and I had several things like this that used to guide me and encourage me that this path is safe for you. This is the path that's safe for you. And that encouraged me. That gave me when things were difficult, I always remember that. God has shown me that this is okay. I'm okay here, and it encouraged me to keep going. But don't get me wrong. There were times when I would question myself that this is hard. Am I really supposed to be doing this? But I remember those things, and that's what gave me the mental strength to keep going.
What's the field are you in?
So I'm a trauma and orthopedic surgeon. So yeah, I deal with the spectrum of everything. I operate on children as young as a year old till adults as old as 102, 3, 4 years old. Yeah, and I deal with all sorts of trauma. So car accidents, helicopter crashes. Yeah, so you can imagine what I've seen, what I've gone. It's. But at the same time, I thank God for what I've seen and people that you can help, you know, and people that come in broken and leave fixed and happy, and you know. So it is a rewarding career, but it has those challenges. No problem. Any questions? Oh, I love the humility. That's good.
No, I don't need the mic. I was just
Okay. Just so that they can hear, actually. So that the okay, I'll repeat it for you. Okay.
What's it like when you it's kind of raps for someone?
What's it like when I know it's raps for someone? Okay, so that means what is it like when I know somebody's going to pass away?
Yeah.
The first person I ever saw pass away in hospital was a very elderly man. He had the same name as me, actually, and he was a doctor. Yeah, he was a doctor. Same name as me. I'll never forget him. I can't say his surname because obviously that's not. But he had cancer, and I was working on the cancer ward. So as a doctor, you have to do everything. You know? So I worked on the cancer ward, and while I was on the cancer ward, I was looking after him every day. And because I was a new doctor, I was like I was putting my spirituality into it, if I could say. So I would go home and I'd be praying for all my patients, you know. I was like, oh, this is nice stuff. And anyway, I met him one morning, and he looked at me and he said, "Look, I'm ready to go. Just let me go. Just let me. I know what you're doing. Just let me go. I'm ready to go." And I was like, "Why? No. What do you mean? You're not ready to go. You know, you're not." And so I was like, "You're not," and I just left him. And then the next day in the morning, I was praying for him. And I got to his room again. And as I got into the room, he asked everyone to get out. And I was like, what have we done? And then he asked me to come in, and I went in, and he said, I've told you, I'm ready to go, leave me alone. And I was like, okay, I understand, no problem. And the next day, he was gone. And I remember crying, because this is someone I was looking after for months. We talked, he told me about his life and everything. And I was like, wow. So it was very heavy. But one thing I must say is that as I developed in the hospital, I realized that life is a journey, that there is a beginning. Because I've seen so many births, you know, and I see deaths. So I realized that they come in and they go eventually. And when I was young, I didn't really have that. I just thought everyone lived forever. You know, you just think, oh, everyone I'm seeing today is always going to be around. That's not the case. So it increased the empathy in me. It made me realize, you know, you have to treat people well, because you never know. And if you can relieve or alleviate someone's suffering, do it in your own way.
Yeah? This is about the current affairs that's going on right now. I guess it's controversial, but I just want to hear your thoughts on this. If somebody that believes that you stole their job from them approaches you, for example, you know everything that's going on.
Oh, the riot to me?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
How would you deal with the situation, or discuss with them in a way for them to like understand what is actually going on? That it's not that you stole their job, you actually worked very hard for it. But I don't know if you get my question. No?
I think I do. I think I do. I'll give my 2 things on that. One thing I love about medicine is that there's no debate about skills and experience. That's one of the things I really love it. You know, if you are good at it, you're good at it. It doesn't matter if you're tall, short, black, white, brown, whatever. if you're good at it, you're good at it. And people appreciate the pureness of the gift you're giving to them. So that debate you rarely see in medicine, to be honest. However, one thing I have noticed is that whenever you're in any position, there'll be people that are happy and there'll be people that are not happy. And you have to learn that you don't live for their opinion of you. You live to do the right thing in your role. And that's it. And so whether they are happy, or whether they are sad, or whether they are whatever, it doesn't affect you. You're not there to please people. You're there to do your job, as it were. I think, do we have one more question? Or are we, do we have one more? Okay, we do. I think this might be the last question, because they said 5 minutes, 15 minutes ago. So.
So I know some people struggle with balancing like the work of God and their faith, and also their work outside. How do you do that? And if you don't, or you do, can you tell us like how this?
Right. Balance. Now this is the issue. As you get older, because we all seem quite young-ish. As you get older, the responsibilities will grow more. So the things you were doing when you were younger, you won't have the same time to do them. And so you actually now have to start becoming time conscious. You have to start planning your time. What time do I have to dedicate to this? What time do I have to dedicate to that? If you don't do that, that's when you find that you start to become imbalanced. You start to overpromise and underperform. So the most important thing for me was having a diary and having times that, oh, this time is set for that, and having hours accounted for. So, you know, I'm going to be in church for this time to that time. I'm going to go to the library between this time and that time. I'm going to spend time with friends and family between this time and that time, and sticking to that. That really will help you to balance your time. Come through. Sorry. That's okay. Thank you for coming. So yeah, so that will really help you to balance the time. I've now just got a PA, well, I've got my own, someone that's helping me now to also ensure that I'm accountable for the times that I've actually put aside, and I'm not just putting the time and then ignoring it. So that's helping me as well. So that's one of the things I do to help with time management and balance. I think that's the last question, so I'm going to hand back to the organisers. But thank you for having me. And,